Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about co-sleeping and my experience that I have gone through over the last almost decade. Now I want to go ahead and to clear this up that my oldest son is almost 9, and I have been co-sleeping with him. I have co-slept with him and all of my kids since. I have not been co-sleeping with the same kid for the past decade almost. I have co-slept with each of my children, which I have 4. So I didn't want anybody to be misled by the title and think that I have been co-sleeping with the same child for that long. No. He's been on his own for quite a while now. So, I wanted to just kind of jump into how I even started with with the whole co-sleeping thing. And first off, I didn't even know co-sleeping even had a name. I would just pull my kids into bed with me when I was just too tired to even function. And that's how we even ended up starting to co-sleep. Well, kind of. With my oldest, that's what I'm going to jump into. With my oldest, I had him when I was really young. I was 20 years old when I had him, and I had a terrible, terrible pregnancy, terrible delivery, terrible experience all around, and so much trauma just surrounded that entire year, I felt like. So to start off with, I was put on bed rest at 27 weeks and was kept on bed rest until 37 weeks. I had so many medical issues during that time, and I think everybody just kind of dismissed them because I was so young. They thought, oh, she just doesn't know what to expect. She doesn't know what she's doing. Wrong. I had a little idea, and it just was not going well, and everybody just kept dismissing it. And I will get into, if you guys want to know what all happened, I'll get into that in another video, but I'm just going to not do it in this one. So basically, after I had Gleason via emergency C-section, I was laying down to nurse him in the recovery room for the first time. And I had just started, and I remember all of these nurses just swarming the room and coming in saying, "Can you breathe okay? Are you doing okay? We're watching you on the monitors. What's going on?" And they came in, and I was like, well, now that you mention it, I can't breathe. And what had happened was I had started having kidney failure, liver failure, and heart failure, and my my lungs were filling with fluid. I went from bad shape to really, really bad shape in the blink of an eye. They came in, they threw this big giant mask at me, or on me. They took Gleason, and I was just in ICU. Sorry, she wants to be held. I don't even remember a lot of what had gone on in that time. It was kind of just like a whirlwind. But I had only got to see Gleason even once I was out of the ICU and into the heart unit of the hospital. The nurses would only bring him to me once a day for 30 minutes. So for 10 days, which they actually ended up keeping him in the hospital. They didn't make him get sent home by himself. And that's pretty amazing, and what a blessing that was for them to even be able to do that, because they wouldn't have just been able to just, it was best that we were all kept there together, I felt like, in my personal opinion, which then my husband could, well, he wasn't my husband yet, but my husband could stay with me during that entire time, and then just split his time between going back and forth between me and the nursery to see Gleason. So when we finally got home after that 10 days, which 10 days after all that is all I had to spend in the hospital, and I had a laundry list of medication, but what a miracle. God is good. I was sent home and was completely off of all medication within 6 weeks. How crazy is that? So when we first came home with Gleason, I was just thrown off. I was so just mentally thrown off by everything I had gone through that I was just paranoid. So when we would go to bed at night, Gleason had a bassinet at the very end of our bed, at the foot of our bed. And anytime that he would make a noise or grunt or anything, I was just so scared that I would literally just jump and flee to the end of the bed to check on him, and he was fine. I was not, because after the C-section and not being able to move for so long, my body would be so sore from just the drastic moving that I did. It was really tough. So I eventually just gave in and just brought him into bed with me. And we did that until for a while. Every once in a while I put him in his crib, and Gleason was a really, really, really easy baby. Like, I was so fortunate to have him as like my first. Like, he was just really easy. So fast forward, once we're in our house and I got pregnant with my second one, Gleason kind of knew that there was something up, so he got extremely clingy, and started sleeping with us again, which I didn't mind. If you are a mother of multiple kids, maybe you probably know what I'm talking about when I say that it was while you're still pregnant, towards the end of your pregnancy with your second, you go through this like really emotional phase where you're just like, oh my gosh, is my kid gonna hate me because he's not gonna be an only child anymore? I'm worried that he's gonna be neglected, or he's just not gonna have as much attention, and you get so panicked and so upset, and everything turns out fine. It's just part of your emotions and part of the hormones and everything else. But so that's what I was doing with Gleason, and I thought, you know what, he can sleep with me as long as he wants, and that's totally fine. And it was. I didn't ever mind it. So once I had my second and I brought him home, I had tried we always had a bassinet. For every one of my kids, I had always gotten the crib set up and the bassinet set up, and it was basically useless. But I had tried setting him in the bassinet quite a few times, and it was just, they were just never comfortable. They were never just good at sleeping on their own. And I know a lot of people try the cry out method, and I think if that works for you, then that's great. I could never do it because I just felt so guilty to have them cry out. And I'm not condemning anybody that does that. If whatever mama needs to do to get her sleep is what mama needs to do. So I don't condemn anybody for anything that they have to do, obviously within reason, to get their sleep. So what I would do is, as soon as I'd bring the babies with me into bed and hold them and nurse them, they were golden. Like, they would sleep, which means I would sleep. Now, I do not recommend everybody co-sleep. I have heard horror stories from even a friend I know who tried to co-sleep with her child, and she would, like, their bed was on the floor, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but she would try to co-sleep with her child, and like, she would just wake up and they'd be like on the floor, which, like I said, it was just a mattress on the floor, I think she said. So co-sleeping is just not for everyone. If you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, not for you either. I have just always been a really, really light sleeper. I've always been aware of my kids, and when I would nurse them at night, my back has never faced, the baby has never been behind my back. And let me describe to you how I would do this. So I can paint like a little bit of a picture for you. As I would nurse them at night, she's just letting me hold her, but as I would nurse them at night, when I would nurse them, like, I would be on my side, and if I ever wanted to turn to the other side, the baby would go with me, and I would just flip the baby around, and they were always just right there. Even if they weren't actually nursing or suckling or doing anything, just them being close to me, they would sleep and be comfortable. Anyways, I was trying to get her to pay attention, but there she is. There she is. She's trying to take a nap now. So yes, the baby would never be behind me. I've always been, like I said, a super, super light sleeper. So that's just how I had always nursed the baby throughout the night or slept with the baby. And that has always worked well for me. Now, as far as whenever, like, weaning, I guess I should say, as we would start to wean, which I think is what most people are questioning, like, once you start co-sleeping, how do you stop? What we have always done, which may or may not work for you, I just don't know. Like, it's just preference, I think, or it's just, you know, whatever works. So when I would bring home a new baby, and my older baby would be about 2 years old, because they're all about 2 years apart, you can't just bring home a new baby and just say, okay, other child, bye-bye, and like throw them into their own room, because that's just going to create animosity. It's going to create a lot of emotions for him. It's going to create a lot of emotions for you. It's just going to not be a good 5. So what we would do is we would lay the new baby up top with us, and then the other baby would snuggle with us until they'd fall asleep, and then we would face them like they would be like feet to feet with the new baby, if that makes sense. So they'd be at the end of our bed, and guys, it's tough. It can be really, really tough. My husband has not always been super gung-ho about it, but like he just goes along with whatever. He's just, whatever, do what you need to do. He can still sleep no matter what. So what I would always do is just have the baby, the bigger baby, the 2-year-old, generally at the bottom of the bed, and slowly I would transition them. If you've ever watched any of my cleaning videos, you've probably picked up whenever I've had videos where I clean my room, there's always a pallet right next to my side of the bed on the floor, with blankets and pillows and, you know, like teddies or toys or whatever. I always have a pallet for them on the floor, and we start to transition from my bed, or our bed, sorry, I don't know what I just said there, from our bed to the floor. And sometimes to transition, I would just lay on the floor with them and just rub their back. Or sometimes they'll, like, now Barrett, like, he's an exception to the rule. Like, he's been in our room for quite a bit longer than the other two by far, and that's okay. I'm not really in a rush, and I can't really, you know, it is what it is. He's not in our bed anymore, but he's still in our room, which is really fine with me. When he's ready, I think he's, you know, he'll be fine. But so, okay, what worked with my other two and is not working with Barrett so much, are you trying to say you're so cute, girl? When I would start putting Glayson and Cruz in their rooms, Glayson had his big boy bed. Oop, excuse her. Excuse you. Glayson would have his big boy bed, and he was like, he was weaned super quick. Excuse you. But when I would put Cruz in Cruz and Glayson shared a room. I hear you. When Glayson and Cruz would share a room, and they would each, you know, go to bed in their own. Glayson and Cruz shared a room, and they would each go to bed in their own beds, and every morning I would go in to wake them up, and they'd be like foot to foot. Oh, thank you. She just brought me another lens. Thank you. They'd be foot to foot. Careful, 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 careful. So, ow, don't pull my hair. So that was just part of like how they weaned. They just felt comfortable. Like they just still wanted to snuggle. And like I couldn't ever blame them, because like I like to snuggle with my husband, and I'm, you know, almost 30 years old. Like I just don't like to be in bed by myself or my room by myself. So you can't be upset whenever a child wants to be in the room with you. We're just snugglers by nature, I think, some of us. Yes. Yes. So that's just how they would wean. And now, like, they're both, you're choking me. Now they're both big boys, and they both sleep in their own beds, and they'd rather not even, you know, they're just fine. That's just how they are. They go through this phase, and eventually they'll just be on their own. Cruz, however, or Barrett, however, he and Lainey were supposed to share a room. I don't think either one of them is. That room, their back room, we have a 3-bedroom house, and we're always like, we need a bigger house, like we need to move so everybody can have their own room. It's a joke, because no one's going to sleep on their own, like, and not for quite a few years anyway. So no one's ever used that room. It was supposed to be when we just had Glayson. Glayson had his own room. Then we had Cruz. Cruz was supposed to be in that back room. Never used it. I don't think he'd ever slept in that room even once. And then Barrett and Lainey, I redid the room for them. Never slept in it. So it's just, it's there, I guess, if anybody ever chooses to do it. But I think what I'm going to do for Barrett to start weaning him, you're kicking my camera, doing for Barrett is I'm going to go and get him a bed and put it in the big boys room, and then the 3 of them will share. And if Barrett chooses to move to Cruz's room and sleep foot to foot with him, I don't think Cruz is going to mind, and I think that might make Barrett feel better until he's used to the transition. And Lainey, I am not really ready to wean her quite yet. Maybe within the next 6 months I'll start weaning her by doing the pallets on the floor. But she just kicked a toy, if that's what you hear. So we'll wean her the same way. We'll do pallets on the floor, and I'm not sure how it's going to work yet because she's not going to sleep in the same room as her brother. So I am thinking that when it comes time, it'll probably be I'm sleeping in her. No, Lainey. I'm going to sleep in her bed with her until she falls asleep and then try to like sneak back into my room. So we'll just see. We'll see how she works out with that. But I'm not even ready to even think about that yet. I don't think she's going anywhere for a while. So, pros and cons to co-sleeping. Sometimes you just want to sprawl out. You can't do that when you're co-sleeping. Sometimes, you sometimes you just want your own space. You just can't do that. And it's really important to remember that they're only little for so long. And I know that's like the most oversaid statement ever, and it's very cliche to say that, but it's so true. I can't even believe that I'm going to have a 10-year-old in the next year and a half. Like, that's just mind-blowing to me. Time just flies, and so if I can get this time with them and make them feel safe and comfortable and just snuggle and spend every ounce of time I can with them, then that's what I'm going to do. And it's really the best part of co-sleeping for me is not just the snuggling, but it's being able to hear them dream and giggle and laugh in their sleep and talk in their sleep. Like, there's just nothing like it. And I love that even with Barrett still being on the floor, he'll wake up first thing in the morning and jump over the edge of the bed and tell me about like, he's still like not even all the way awake yet, and he's just like telling me his dream, and it doesn't really make sense, but you just to hear how his mind has been working overnight and like hear what things he has to say, it's crazy. And I love it so much. Now, a part that seems kind of funny to me that people ask a lot of questions on is if you share your bed, how do you and your husband get intimate? Well, we do have quite a bit of children, so we just get a little creative. That your intimacy relies on you guys being strictly in bed. There's other ways to go about things, if you know what I'm talking about. So I always think that's so funny that people are like, well, how do you even, That's how. You just find other ways around it. Funny story. I don't even know if I should tell this story. He's probably going to get mad if he finds out I told this story. But we went on a date one night, and we had my sister-in-law watch the kids. And because we had iPhones at the time, I don't have iPhone anymore, I have Android, and so does my husband. But we had iPhones at the time, and we all had like the trackers, the iPhone, where's my iPhone at, and you could track and see where it was. I guess she was watching the kids, it was getting antsy, and she's like, I wonder how much longer until they're going to be home. So she tried to find us. And when we got home, she's like, hey, where were you guys? Because I saw you in just this field. And then she looked at us. She's like, oh. So embarrassing. So embarrassing. But it was hilarious. Like, I was so confused at how she even knew that because I didn't even know you could track iPhones. I'm not tech savvy whatsoever. So when she was like, hey, I thought you guys were here or there. I'm like, so be a little creative with it. To end this whole video, this really long video, I'm just going to say that I wouldn't trade co-sleeping for the world. You only get so much time with those little bitty babies that grow up to be big babies and grow up to have attitudes and don't want to even give you a kiss or a hug anymore. So I enjoyed that time that I got with each of my kids. I think it's very special, and there's nothing like it. I love that, when you might be in you might be asleep with them, and they're like in a deep sleep, and you get to hear them giggle and laugh or talk in their sleep. It's really special, and I'm so thankful for this time, and I'm so thankful that when I would have people say that you shouldn't co-sleep because it's dangerous, that I didn't listen. I mean, obviously be smart about it. You can't just have blanket, especially with a newborn. When they get older, it's not a big deal, but when you have newborns up to the age of like 9 months, I mean, probably don't have the same blanket as them, or just I don't even know what to say, because I've always just been so aware of my kids being with me or in the bed with me that I really didn't have to worry about it. Like I just, you know, like I said, like either they would sleep on my chest, on the side of me where I was able to nurse them, and I nursed all of my, well, my first one, I told you I couldn't nurse him because I had been through so much. I was on a lot of medication when I left, but I was able to nurse all of my kids until they were at least, two is tough. I was able to nurse all of my kids until they're at least 12 months to, I think my furthest went to 16 months. So I was thankful for that time. Don't listen to yourself above everybody else, because everybody's going to give you opinions. Everybody's going to tell you what's right or what's wrong. It's right or what's wrong for them. You need to focus on what's right or wrong for you. And again, if you are a really heavy sleeper, not a good idea. If you are under the influence of alcohol or drugs at all, not a good idea. But for the rest of you who might be a light sleeper, who just might really just enjoy co-sleeping or are interested in co-sleeping, it's really a blessing, and it really helps with getting a little bit of sleep back. It really does. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.